Hello and welcome to another edition of Economic Forum, where we discuss various issues affecting our economy in Zimbabwe. These can be issues to do with provincial economies, with manufacturing, with infrastructure, development, religion, education. We table them here and see how they impact on our economy. My name is John Masugu. The ZANU-PF 2025 Annual People's Convention has come and gone, and quite a number of resolutions were made, but today we're going to be looking at those that impact on our economy. We're going to analyze them and see how they fit in with the end of NDS 1 and the ushering in of NDS 2. And to do that, we've invited an economist, and that's Dr. Takuranashe Famba, who is going to be dissecting all these to see how these resolutions fit in probably before the NDS 2 is announced. Doc, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masuku.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe the first thing is just to explain the interface that is there between the ruling party and government, because those resolutions were quite instructive. A party was actually directing government to do this and that. So that is very important to understand, and then we go further.
Okay, thank you. In the context of Zimbabwe, I would want to elaborate on the relationship between party and government. You realize that the ruling party is generally in control of parliament, is also in control of government departments, all institutions of government. I would call them probably MDAs, the ministries, the departments, and the agencies, through secondment of various party officials, directly or indirectly. So what happens is that in ZANU-PF or any other political party that comes for contestation, they come up with a political manifesto. So this manifesto is, these are promises or pledges that are given to the various stakeholders, including their own party followers. So through that, then the party itself goes on to have its own conferences, congresses, where there are resolutions that are made. And these resolutions, they are usually also coined around the needs of the party stakeholders. As such, because the party is also controlling government, it's also controlling various institutions, they can directly or indirectly influence decisions that are going to be done in government through the resolutions that are coming out of the various forums, which are official, like the recently held conference in Mutare.
Yes. Now let's go straight into those resolutions which were made. And here we are actually focusing on those which impact on our economy. There were other political ones as well as social ones, but let's look at those impacting the microeconomic situation, provincial economies, as well as beneficiation and so forth. So if you could just list them and then analyze how each one is important, and not forgetting again how it is linked with NDS 1 and leading into NDS 2.
You will find that there were quite lots of interesting resolutions coming out of that conference. And most of the economic resolutions, they actually speak to almost everyone in the country. Let's look at the one that was directly affecting probably yourself and myself.
The ZIG one.
The ZIG, yes. And party officials, party delegates jostling, talking to the Minister of Finance, pushing for the ZIG currency to work. This is our only currency we have, which is backed by gold, and party delegates insisting that the ZIG must work and should be sustained. Remember, the ZIG is founded on the principle that it is gold-backed. So when it begins to lose value, and then people begin to have some form of mistrust. So party delegates are actually saying, in NDS 1, we moved away from the transitional stabilization program to NDS 1. Now you know, transitional stabilization is like you're not feeling well, you need to be stabilized. But when we've stabilized you now, we now want to grow you. So we come up with NDS1, a strategy towards what? 2030. Now, during that process of NDS1, we come up with a currency, and then we say it's gold-backed. And everyone agrees, say, okay, let's trust it's gold-backed, but we see it shaking. This is what party delegates are now saying. We don't want it to shake. Remember, the party delegates are actually pushing for de-dollarization. Then when that happens, we now need to de-dollarize. So this is very important. But, you know, from a political perspective, that goal of de-dollarization, whilst it might appear to be a straightforward one, we also need to understand the functions or some factors that can actually cause it to work or not to work. So this is what every delegate was looking at. Let's make it work. Let's have enough reserves. Let's have transparency in the system to make sure that gold reserves are built. And that's one of the key things. And
do you think that with that, a lot of trust was actually built? Because last time, people had no confidence when there was talk of 1:1 and then it fell. But this time now that there was that insistence from the ruling party, do you think now trust is going to be built?
One of the things that we call for, no matter how we can do economic numbers, we can do what, is political will. And it is not difficult for us to see that there is political will. And when delegates, who are the core decision makers in ZANU-PF, say, please, let's do this, then we can actually see that there is political will. Now it is left to the Reserve Bank, it is left to the Minister of Finance to work with the Reserve Bank and ensure that the fundamentals to make the ZIG work are put in place.
That's Dr. Takuranashe Famba, who is an economist. Today we are discussing the resolutions that were passed at the 2025 ZANU-PF National Conference, how they impact on our economy. So join us in the second segment of the program. Today we are analyzing the resolutions that were made at the ZANU-PF annual conference, especially in the context of the ending of NDS1 and the coming in of NDS2. We want to see where they fit in and what continuity they give. And our guest is an economist here, who is Dr. Takuranashe Famba, who is a scholar in the field of economics and has been following these events. Now, let's go on to the other resolutions that are related. I think the emphasis on SIG was enough, and we hope there's going to be that change that the delegates were really pushing for, and also giving a very instructive resolution to the government. Now, let's go to the other issues that were resolved.
So, one of the key resolutions is focusing on infrastructural development. And this has been a core part of the NDS1. As you are all aware, road construction, road networks, the emergency road rehabilitation program that has been ongoing. Party delegates insisted on funding of these infrastructural programs. And this also is speaking to NDS2, where there is emphasis on actually capitalizing these projects, either through public-private partnerships or government public spending. So it is very important that we rehabilitate our national railways, NRZ, the Beira corridor. I think in terms of shipment of goods, apart from saving the roads that we are actually working on, it also can assist us in reducing the cost of shipping of products from Beira to Harare, and also for regional integration. I think this is a very important part. And besides, if we come to our road networks, we still need to continue with road construction. We've got this Harare Kanyemba highway that is under construction. You can imagine yourself the economic benefits arising from linking Harare to Kanyemba. And besides, we have got this emergency program that is going on for the Victoria Falls Highway. I think we've all been crying about going to Vic Falls by road, challenges that we're facing, and government is coming to say, okay, we have listened, we want to actually reconstruct this road, repair where it's damaged so that we can access our tourism destination. So that's a very important part in infrastructure development.
While we are there, Dr. Famba, if you could just help dispel the notion that all those developments that took place and then there was a lull was because of SADC, but that they were actually part of government policy that infrastructure development should be upped.
A very simple illustration on why it was government policy is that it's coming from the Transitional Stabilization Program. Then we come to the NDS-1, where there was a thematic committee specifically working on infrastructural development. And one of the major things there was road construction and road rehabilitation. So we cannot just summarily say the road networks were simply because of SADC. While on the other hand, I can say what is wrong with us leveraging the SADC event to improve also our infrastructure. It happens everywhere. If we are hosting events in Tokyo, you find infrastructural development just rises. We saw it in 2010 in South Africa. It was all road construction because of the World Cup. Mm-hmm. So there isn't really nothing wrong when we are having infrastructure that grows because it's associated with a particular event.
Yes.
Yes.
And the emphasis was not only on growth, but if you look at the resolution, there is a repetition of modernization. You're not only growing infrastructure, but you're modernizing it. If you could just help understand that, why is it important to modernize with all these changes in technology and other things that are taking place?
When you talk about modernization, there's quite a lot that is ongoing. We're talking about digital transformation, the transactions that we are doing. When you are growing, this is to do with artificial intelligence coming in. We are making money in the digital world. And since you are making money in the digital world, you also talk about issues to do with cyber attacks, cyber security, and so much that is happening. And when it comes to our own infrastructure, for example, look at policing, right? We are using physical police officers. But recently we've seen some pilot projects that are running in Harare where you have electronic surveillance of crimes being perpetrated around Harare. That is all modernization. And we shouldn't be surprised to see an electronic police or an e-police in Harare anytime soon, because that's what the ZANU-PF delegates were actually pushing for. They are saying, let's actually digitalize, let's embrace technology, let's embrace artificial intelligence. And this was very specific. We need to digitalize, we need to go with transformative technologies, including even in construction. There's so much that we can actually do, bring in sustainability ideas in our construction. That is part of modernization.
Just to wind up this segment, let's go on to the taxes that were talked about and a resolution on their reduction.
Well, one of the texts that probably has been haunting everyone, including most probably yourself, whilst it was a very important text bringing in revenue to the government, the party members felt that it has been causing maybe a bit of pressure on people who want to do banking. So you would find that compliance and banking inclusion, most people were choosing not to because of that tax. So the MIMTT tax is one of those taxes that people are pushing to be removed.
So we'll stop there, Dr. Famba, and we'll continue in the third and final segment of Economic Forum. Join us then. In the last segment, we were discussing about some of the resolutions where some taxes were being recommended for removal by the delegates at the ended ZANU-PF National People's Conference. And our guest here, Dr. Takuranashe Famba, has just been unpacking that. Now, let's look at what recommendations you would give as to how those gaps would be closed if the taxes, are removed. The minister has to come up with something, and what would you recommend?
So maybe let me come on that issue of the IMTT tax.
Yes.
Well, when we say the minister should close the gaps, we are just assuming that probably he doesn't have other sources that he's going to include in his budget. For now, let's assume that he has other sources. But what happens is that we will say that because the tax was there to be part of our budget, and the minister was saying we were having surplus. Several times we've heard about surplus. So it probably that was talking to the IMTT tax. So that's another assumption that we can make. But let's assume that by removing the tax, then he needs to fill the gap. So this then implies that he has to redirect his sources of income from other sources that are already there. But what are these? Because we already have, people are already also talking about the pay being high and all these other corporate tax, some companies requesting for tax breaks and all these things. So politically, it could be a good idea to say, let's remove the tax, but we might also find the minister having to also have a problem in filling the gap. But one important thing that we must also realize, there is a resolution that speaks to solving this problem, and that is to do with working with our international partners. There is a resolution specific to building the image of Zimbabwe, to encourage investors to come to Zimbabwe. So when that happens, and in an environment that has got favorable taxes, we are likely to have more revenue coming into the government coffers indirectly and cover the gap that we are talking about. So it is not an easy thing to just say the minister is not going to have a solution to this to cover this gap, or he will cover this gap using this method. But because the resolutions are integrated, they are not going to work as silos, but as integrated resolutions. It means we are expecting more investment to come into Zimbabwe in the NDS2 phase, because we are pushing for a friendly, investor-friendly Zimbabwe.
Yes. And the other thing that was discussed there, Dr. Famba, is the issue to do with provincial economies. And on this program, Economic Forum, we have been talking about these economies and how are they going to be affected to improve them from where they are. There was emphasis on value addition and beneficiation.
That's quite an interesting one. But maybe one thing that I would like to address there, which was a serious issue at this recently ended conference, was the issue of disbursements to these provincial economies, the devolution funds. And delegates were actually talking about the late disbursement and the partial disbursement of devolution funds. So with that in question, delegates were actually pushing for the finance minister to ensure that the allocations for provincial economies are disbursed on time and in full, so that whatever programs are earmarked in those respective provinces are actioned. The challenge was we are putting on budget a devolution fund for maybe 20 billion, then you are only given 10% of that, and you can not actually achieve the goals that you will have set for that particular province. Now, coming to the issues of value addition, yes, this is quite important, and it's you might also want to know that it's also part of the NDS2. We are emphasizing value addition at provincial level to grow the various GDPs for that particular provinces. And as those GDPs, individual province GDPs go up, so is our 2030 goal to grow the national GDP.
Now, one thing that we are proud of is that one of the leading international magazines, Forbes magazine, has named us as one of the leaders in terms of being a tourist destination of choice. Now, tourism, again, I'm sure it's something that was discussed vastly there.
I think it was a song at the conference, because it's so exciting, you know, when you have been going through drawbacks for some years, sanctions, everyone talking negatively about you, and then all of a sudden we find such a renowned magazine speaking so great about Zimbabwe. Even yourself and myself, we've got to be excited. So this is why already the issues of infrastructure, aviation infrastructure, road infrastructure, you can see going to Victoria Falls, Vic Falls Airport, all these airports under construction, recently the Mutare. You can see that it's not just political talk, but there is action. And when it is, these resolutions are endorsed by the highest decision-making bodies in ZANU-PF, which is the ruling party, we know that certainly something will be done. Yes. And I think you can agree with me that something has already been going on in NDS1, although we might not have achieved exactly what we would have wanted to achieve due to certain stumbling blocks, including lack of funding, limited support, international support. So these things also worked against us. But as we move forward with the more international engagement, I see Zimbabwe being a top economy in the very near future.
Just in a few seconds to wind up, do you think the targets are going to be met before the next conference?
Definitely. I'm happy about one thing I can tell you is that according to the COSO framework, we always argue to say that if it is the tone from the top that should instruct what happens at the bottom. Mm-hmm. So as long as the tone at the top is correct, which I think the tone at the top from His Excellency going down to the various ministries, we are speaking the same language.
Well, that's Dr. Takuranashe Famba, who has been analyzing the ZANU-PF National People's Conference for 2025, some of the key resolutions that we made with regards to our economic development. We've looked at how they then interface with the end of NDS1 and the commencement of NDS2. And also we'll be having the budget, and we'll see whether they will be budgeted for so that they are implemented as directed. If you would like to get in touch with us on this program to ask some of these things that were discussed here by Dr. Chifamba and many other programs, you can do so on the numbers that are showing on your screen. If you also would like to engage with our guests and also about any other programs that we have broadcast, you can do so on the social media platforms. And you can also watch Economic Forum on the YouTube channel, which is Economic Forum Zimbabwe. So on behalf of Dr. Takuranashe Famba, economist and our guest today, and the Economic Forum production crew, this is John Masu wishing you happy viewing.